Yes, sir. Continue, please. Yeah.
Uh,
Yes, sir. Please.
I am saying this with full commitment because I feel that the initial foundation for any individual when he starts his professional career is very important how he goes up the ladder. So my initiation with instrumentation Palghat was very, very useful, very important, and which has really helped me a lot. So why I said this was, so now I have become, after all my 47 years of roaming around the country, I come back to Palghat. People ask me, my last posting was in Pune for 8 years. So people did ask me a question, why are you going to Palghat? You'll get bored there. There is no activity there. And I came here about 8-9 months ago. And I can tell you one thing, though it's a Corona time, COVID-19 pandemic is going on, but still there is not a single day I have not enjoyed in Palghat. And I feel that I took the right decision of coming to Palghat because Palghat has given me a lot professionally. So I think I should give my returns to Palghat, and that is how I am here. So that was first point. So thank you very much, my dear friends. I know people are there from various other places also, but to all of them, a real good evening. Many people did message me also, why did you select a time of 7 o'clock? Because 7 o'clock is the time when normally they come back or full day of work, they would like to relax. But still, Kalyan has chosen a time where most people can comfortably come. So thank you, Kalyan. I am ready. And what is the time limit you fix? You fix it. I have no problem. I totally go and have dinner now. So I am okay. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you. Yeah. So here is my first question to you, sir. That is, over the course of your life, what is the most important leadership lesson you learned?
People actually give leadership something of a different connotation. What I would like to always say, leadership is not primarily with regard to just being a CEO of an organization. A leadership quality can be exhibited right from the initial days. And it varies from position to position. Obviously, yes, a leader, if he's of the organization like the MD or a CEO, he has a different roles to play. But it could be a departmental leader. It could be a section leader. So I always feel that leadership one has to really understand. You don't have to become the CEO to become a leader. So that is number one. Rather, I always say, I give an example. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be talking more of examples. Let me just give you a small background. If you see today's children, or children when go to learn swimming, there are two types of people who go and learn swimming. One is what used to traditionally happen in our villages, our places. That a young boy is there, he's taken by his parents or his uncle or his elder brother and put into the pond. ആ കുളത്തിലേക്ക് വലിച്ചെറിയും, ആ കുട്ടി അവിടെ ഇരുന്ന് നീന്താൻ പഠിക്കും, എന്നിട്ട് മുമ്പോട്ട് നല്ല സ്വിമ്മറായിട്ട് വരും. The second way is what we see many times, before the child is even ready to start the swimming, the parents buy a full swimming kit for him, a cap for him, the goggles for him, arrange a coach for him, take him to a swimming club and give a training. Both are good. I'm not saying which is good or which is bad. But what I would like to say is I am of the first type. Just put into the pond without any formal education, formal management education. I did my engineering in 1973, and right within a month or two, I jumped into the professional life, and thereafter I did not have any opportunity to go for any higher education. So all my experience, what I'm going to talk, is with regard to the practical experiences which I have gathered over the last 47, 48 years. Theory is different, practical is different. Many times, if you go as per the theory, you find that yes, you may land into problems. So what I am going to, this is just a caveat to all of you. What I am going to speak is primarily of all the experiences what I had. So we are coming back to this leader. The leadership or the leadership quality is a very important word. You would have seen in schools, I don't know today, in my time, and in schools, there used to be a monitor of a class. The monitor of a class is normally, with due apologies, if the child is okay, good, the child's parents are some good, he's a police officer or a good doctor, so that such child become a monitor of the class. Then what happens is the child, the monitor is unable to control the class. The children are making noise, but actually a imposed monitoring position of monitor. So at the same time, in the class, maybe 6th standard, 10th standard, college, you find that if there is an issue, there could be one boy who may not be the front bencher, who may be perhaps the last bencher or somewhere in the middle. If he stands and he talks something, everybody listens to him. What is the difference? That is the difference. That is the leadership quality. Why I give this example is, so a leader does not have to be in the front. A leader does not have to be having a title. A leader has to have certain inborn quality, which obviously that itself is a different subject. I'm not going into that. So answering Kalyan's first question, over the course of life, what is the most important lesson you have learned? So I would like to say, when I say, people may be shocked, but I can tell you one thing. The most simple and effective quality for a leader is to be honest and truthful. And it may sound very simple, but in reality, if I have at all succeeded in my life, it has been these two words. The people who are working with you, the people, your team members, they want a leader who is truthful. They do not want a leader who will only show and give some picture, which may not be the truth. In all my experiences, whether it is in HMC, HEC, whether it is in HMT or in Walton, I can tell you one thing, that has been the real foundation for me. Okay.
So shall I go to the next question?
Yeah.
So this is a very important thing. That is, how do you bring the culture of loving the organization among employees? That is, as far as when you take into consideration Tata, you can see that there is a love, there's a bondage between the employee and the organization in most of the Tata companies. So how will you be able to bring the culture of loving the organization among employees? This is a very important question for all the entrepreneurs.
Actually, this is a very, very important question. Okay. And it is a very big challenge for the leaders or the CEOs. How do you actually motivate the workers or the employees that every morning when they get up, there should be urge, today I have to go, I have to do these things in my office. Now, I'm again coming back to the school example. Okay, because schools is one of the foundation of anybody's life. Now, why I'm saying the school example, we may send our children to the school, good school, ordinary school, government school, whichever school it is. Now, one important thing, if you find the child very anxious to go to the school, you find that half the job is over. Because the child is bubbling with activity, he is to rush, be on time, go to the school. Why does he go? Why does he have that love for going to the school? The reason is the teachers. There could be some 5% given credit to there may be a good friend with whom he is more pally. There could be a sports which is there in the school. But primarily it is the teachers. If the teachers are good, the students will definitely want to go to the school because they want to listen to that teacher. Same thing is an organization. In the organization, it depends on how the leader is there. And I'm again saying it is not the CEO because CEO doesn't meet all the employees. Yes. It is the individual departmental leaders who are there, who are able to inculcate a feeling amongst the workers, the employees, the team members that, hey, come on, we have a common problem to solve. So let us solve this problem. So this is very crucial. I would also like to add, many a times it has become like a commercial contract between an employee and an organization. An organization pays something to the employee, and the employee says, I have already given my due for whatever I am paid. Well, that is a purely commercial contract. But in reality, how does this happen? The CEO has to really, as I said, he does not control all the employees, but he has to really inculcate this particular quality amongst his team members, amongst his other leaders. So, answering your question, it is a very important thing. The culture of the organization should be such that the employees should be not considered as just one of the assets, like machine, materials, money, and men. This is what the conventional management say. The only difference is, or the most important difference is, all the first three are stagnant, but only men or the human resource, which is as an asset, has got emotions. So it is for us to see how you bring in emotion into your organization. If you bring emotion, discipline is different, emotion is different. Discipline cannot be compromised, but there has to be an emotional quotient into the culture of the organization, which, as you just gave an example of Tata, we all know what Tata has done even for the pandemic time, people who lose their life in terms of pandemic. So this is a challenge. It has to be actually worked on with the organization. And if you are able to see to it that even 70% of the employees early morning are ready to go to the office with some sort of passion within them, half your job is already over.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Next.
So like Praveen told, leadership is not a position. That is also right there. So here's my next question. That is, how important is vision and mission for the organization? That is question number one. And how to inculcate the culture on employees to embrace vision? Because most of the organization, I think, most of the even those organizations which comes up, I mean, they don't give much importance to vision and mission. Okay, so that is a very important thing which has to be taken care of. So your views on that and your advice on that.
Actually, I am of the always opinion that a vision and mission statement is very important for any organization. Why? Because what is the vision of this organization? I think down the line, every employee should know. Every employee should know. Because you may not be able to communicate to all the, if your organization has got 1,000 employees or 5,000 employees or 200 employees, it's become difficult to communicate. So the vision as well as the mission statement is very important. Now, how do you make a vision statement? Now, again, I'll explain to you. If it's an organization of an individual, a startup, say a startup, Kalyan is very popular among the startup fraternity, and he deals with them. A startup, many a times the vision of the startup is the vision of the owner of the startup. Okay, he has certain objectives in his mind, and with that he makes a vision statement. Now, for an organization, a larger organization, is it possible the same way? Perhaps not. Perhaps not. So what happens is the vision statement of a large organization is actually, many an organization actually, it's a culmination of thoughts of some of the strategic team of the management. A owner of any company, even if you take a company like Tata, Tata cannot make out vision statement for its organization. He can give certain guidelines, certain thought process, certain ethical values which will be there in the organization. But the actual vision statement, which is the purpose for which the company is set up, that is the vision statement. And that can always be, can be discussed and finalized. Once you have a vision statement, then it becomes very clear to all the employees of the organization that this is our goal. I used to work in Sanmar for about 12, 13 years in Chennai as a Fisher Sanmar and Tyco Sanmar. One of the most critical part of that organization is, perhaps many of you may not know, that they are very, very ethical organization. Very ethical. So in all their vision statement, they are always saying that if there is a clash between ethics and profit, they will forego profit but keep the ethics. So that is the culture of the organization. Like if you look at, if you see actually Tesla's vision statement, Tesla today has become a great company. in the world. And his vision statement is create the most competitive car manufacturing company in the 21st century by transforming into electric vehicles. Now, when he started that, when he put the vision, obviously he was nowhere. But then they worked on the vision, and it is for, there has to be regular interaction with the team members, with the strategic team members about the vision. Are we on the right course, or are we deviating from our vision? So, to end your question, vision is very important for everybody to know what is this company's purpose. Okay?
Yeah, got it. So there will be a very good clarity on what they're going to reach.
Yes.
So here goes my next question. Okay. So what is that one quality you look for when selecting employees in key positions? Because in many of the organizations, whether it's a startup or whether it's as an ongoing enterprises, what I've seen is there is a misfire. That is, they select the employee just because based on their CV or whatever it is, based on their interaction or whatever it is. And when these people come into that position, I mean, it becomes a big hollow because they are not what they were supposed to be. So on that point, I mean, I have this question: what is that one quality you look for when selecting employee in key position?
No, it's a very, very important question. I do not know whether there are youngsters in this,
There are many youngsters. Yeah.
There are, okay, fine. Many of the youngsters, when they come out of the college, they always have a feeling that if I go for an interview, what should I answer? What is the interviewer looking at a candidate? This is always a doubt. I'll first take in terms of with regard to the first level executives. Okay, then we can even go ahead. Many times people think knowledge is important. Many times people think it's the smartness. Many times people think it's the communication. Many times they think that how you behave when you enter the interviewer's cabin, etc. All these things are needed. But worldwide, one single factor which is the most important thing which most of the interviewers look at in a candidate is, you'll be surprised, is his entrepreneurial skills, entrepreneurial qualities. When I'm saying an entrepreneurial quality, he's not going to set up a unit or set up an organization. If you're taking a graduate engineer for your organization, you're not saying that he'll be owning the company. But from his answers, if he is able to give a feeling that this company where he's going to work will be like his company, I'm telling you that is the most important thing. Now, I'll give a simple example. A driver. You're recruiting a driver. If you find from the recruitment process of the driver that the driver is considering the company's vehicle as his own vehicle, as his own vehicle, if there's a pothole, he tries to avoid the pothole. He goes within the speed restriction. So he is considering the car which he is driving as his own car. Not just a company car, so I can just ride roughshod. No. So even in a position like a driver, there is an entrepreneurial skill is there. So what most important thing which people look at when they are conducting interviews is how good, obviously the other qualities are needed. I'm not saying they're not, but all other qualities can always be learned. If you do not know a subject, you're a mechanical engineering and you're going for some other job, or a management job or a marketing job, you can be taught those things. But the inborn quality which is needed amongst people who are going for an interview is, let me tell you, people don't look at it. I have been on the interview board for the civil services final exam, the final interview.
No.
Come on. One of the things which people think that they look at only whether you're wearing a black coat or a blue shirt or a white shirt and a tie or a black pant. No. They're not even looking at the subject. What they're looking at that time is the candidate capable enough to take decisions in difficult situations? One. Two, is the candidate having sufficient strength or commitment to stand by his decisions? So it varies from places to places. So what I wanted to tell youngsters, you have to study, you have to be decently behaved, your communication should be good. But one point which is most important is when you go to work for a company, you should think that this company is owned by me. I am the owner of this company. I can assure you one thing, you will succeed.
That is very valid point, sir, because that integrity factor as well as loving that organization is very, very important, and that is missing nowadays. I mean, I've seen that because when I was working with the startup, before the pandemic, I have two IIT guys who were working under me, and what they were doing is they were coming to office together, they were going from office together, but they were not even knowing what is it that the company is looking for from them. And second thing is that they were not even, when one guy fell sick, the other guy did not even inquire about, why he did not come to office, because there is no love bondage between themselves with the organization, whatever it is. That's a very, very valid point. Yeah, very
just
valid
just
point.
one point. I just saw somebody had actually asked a question. I was just watching the chat. I do not know who it was. What about the attitude? Definitely, it's a good question.
Yeah.
Now, one thing which we have to look at it, we have a time span of say half an hour, 15 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes in an interview. I'm talking the physical, practical face-to-face interview. In that, you have to judge various points. As I said, an attitude is a very important point. I'm not saying no. I only said the most important point is obviously how, a simple example. Obviously, that will not be an interview, but you come to learn later on. A person has joined the company, and let me again tell you one thing. In an organization, it is not only the first interview which actually makes the difference. How you work in the career, in the organization, what is your day-to-day life in the organization? Please be rest assured, somebody is watching you, not policing you, but watching you. What you do good is also brought in. What you do bad is also brought in. A simple example, I'm taking a very crude example. If you are going on a trip, meeting a local customer, it depends. And if you say that you are going to have a lunch, now if you go and have a lunch of a good, in a hotel, in a big buffet, a good buffet, well, the rules may allow it. There is nothing wrong in the rules. It may allow you for a 5-star bill. But if you go and normally eat a veg thali, for example, I'm telling you that is your quality, inbuilt quality, because at your home, again, you are only eating a normal meal. Though it is you are entitled for a 5-star lunch, but if you are going and eating a normal meal in the course of your official work, meeting a customer, there is nothing wrong. You'll be credited, you'll be given credit. Somebody will watch it, perhaps, and that will come handy at a later date. You are not doing it just for the sake of showing it. It should be your inborn culture. It should be your inborn attitude. And that is very important. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. And there are many questions. What we can do is, my request to all the participants is kindly note down a question. So after this is over, you can ask the question directly to sir. Okay, sir, kindly noting down. Okay, and like that, Praveen is very active. Praveen is entrepreneurship is an attitude or a mindset. So all these questions need a lot of good answers. And definitely you can give that. So I can say question to answer out of regarding the employees of the government service sector, especially government service. Yes, definitely, Mr. Jaishankar, we pleasure as working in government sector, we can answer it very well. Okay, so please note this question down, and you can ask once this is over. Okay, so I'm going to the next question. Okay, I'm sure people are all enjoying it. Okay, so yeah. Again, I come to question and examples. Please quote 1 or 2 examples where a drastic decision. That is one thing, sir. Drastic decisions were challenged by employees and how they were taken into confidence. That is when you want to turn around a company, or when you want to bring a massive change in the organization. The normal decisions can never be taken, because when you take normal decision, things go in a very normal way. But if you want to achieve something abnormal achievements, you need to take some drastic decisions. So definitely there will be a lot of blocks when you're taking that. So, give us some examples where you are taking such a decision and how you were able to take these people into confidence and assuring them, yeah, this is a good decision. You are going to enjoy life once this is implemented, like that. Yeah.
It's a very, very important thing. let me just clarify. There are two types of decision which normally organization does it. One is a decision which will be impacting some individuals. Okay, it could be a disciplinary action, it could be some action, it could be a promotion, it could be not giving a promotion. There could be. So that is an individual, and normally at many of the places, individuals do not challenge the decision. They may show their some sort of a hurt with the decision, their anger with the decision, but they don't challenge. And the challenge for the decisions normally come in when you take a larger decision and when you take a decision which is impacting more employees. So many a times what happens is such decisions are challenged by the union. Okay. Now, here I want to make it, I'll give an example, very live, real life example. When I went to Ranchi, it's very, though I thought of saying that later on, but I'll just tell you, I will not repeat the same thing later on. When I went to Ranchi in 2007, I was working as the CEO of Tyco Sanmar, a large US multinational, and I took a decision to join Heavy Engineering Corporation Limited, Ranchi, as a chairman and managing director. My salary was from that level, it came to almost very low, very, very low, very, very low. Okay. I'll answer that. I am trying to bring only this point. So HEC had a lot of problems. In the first 47 years of the company had made profit only on 3 occasions: 76, 77, and 86. Imagine 47 years later, the company made profit only 3 times. Okay. And when I joined in 2007, there was a lot of, some sort of a discomfort was there, dissatisfaction was there, salaries were not being given for 3, 4 months, people were demoralized, etc., etc. Now, one decision which I took, you'll be surprised to know there is no entry or punching of the employees when they enter the factory. It will be shocking for many people. So there is no attendance system. It was in Bihar. Ranchi was earlier in Bihar. Now it is part of Jharkhand, the capital of Jharkhand. So and at one time we had 35 trade unions, mind you. The total number of employees at one time was 25,000. So over the years, with the company's performance being very bad, so there was no attendance system. The gate used to be open at whatever 6:30 in the morning for the first shift, and about 8 o'clock. People will come, they will sign for 4 people, then they will go back, go out. They go out of the gate without anybody, even without any cause. So I decided that if the company has to be turned around, if the company has to really revive, one fundamental thing is you need the employees in the factory. You cannot have employees going out of the factory and you want to run the production. So we decided, and it's very interesting to note, it's a real fact that if many people who have seen earlier, there used to be punch card system. Now you have all the biometric, etc. Punch card where you put a card.
Yeah.
People have actually put sand into the punch card machine so that the machine doesn't work. Okay. So what I did was I took a decision to bring in new attendance system, and attendance system was kept only at the gate. The gate is manned by CISF security. So at least they will not damage the machines. There was a lot of opposition. Rather, a lot of newspaper comments came that there is no money for paying the salary. The chairman is spending money, 8 crore rupees or some high amount, they said, for attendance system, which was not 8 crore, which was only about 8 lakhs or something like that. Anyway, so a case like this, when it comes, even though there is a lot of opposition, you have to be firm on that. So my point, I will answer this question at a later question when it is there about turnaround. There is a second paragraph to this, which is more interesting. How ladies played a role in helping me to make this particular strong decision. We'll come later on that.
Okay,
so the point which I want to say is, if the decision is with regard to safety and discipline, one need not cow down. If the decision is with regard to, say, improve the productivity, improve something else, you can always be a little bit flexible. There is no need for the management to be rigid. A rigid management doesn't get anything. Anything with rigidity actually breaks. So as I said, the decision should be if it is for discipline and if it is for safety of the employees, there has to be no compromise. I'll give one more small example.
Yeah.
In Valchandnagar, when I was there the last 8 years, we have a township and almost about 2,000 houses are there in the colony. So people drive motorcycle, people drive scooters within the township also and come to office without wearing a helmet. Inside the factory, they have to wear the helmet. It's very essential, the normal helmet. I took a decision that we will not allow anybody to enter even the factory gate without wearing a helmet. Okay. It became a big issue. Union said, no, you did not consult us. I said, no, not consult anybody for this, because this is being done for your safety, for the benefit of your family. We don't want you to meet with an accident. And we did not budge. The workers stopped the work for 2 days. They said, fine, if you are going on this, we are not going to budge because this is a question of safety. So the point is, if it is a safety and discipline, one need not budge. Yeah.
It's a valid, very valid point that you told, sir. So, I'm going to the next question. In between, I would like to tell everyone that is those who are till the end of the program, will be getting a lot of freebies when going out. I mean, what you need to do is you need to write down your email IDs. I mean, I'll be sending that a Google form with you. So I'll be mailing all the details to you. I'll be WhatsApping, I'll be sending the WhatsApp also. Okay, so you should benefit in all the ways when you're attending the program, because okay, this is a very valid and very important program that is going on. Okay, so next is, what is the secret special recipe of yours in turning around companies which will boost employee morale? I mean, because there will be some some secret recipe that you are kept with yourself that has played a very big role in turning around companies, or making companies into profit, or making companies make 5x or 6x or 10x revenues. Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. One very important thing is there cannot be a single formula for all organizations. It is like, what is actually a turnaround? Why do you need a turnaround? It is like a sickness. When a human being becomes sick, you need some treatment so that he recoups. And the sickness may be going on different from different persons to different persons.
Yes.
So similarly, the case with industries. So you cannot have a very common solution for all the industries. It will vary from company to company. But one point which is very important is, you go to a doctor whom you trust. The first thing and the most important thing is, when you are sick, you would like to go to a doctor who is 100% trustworthy. You can talk to him. So this is exactly one important thing. When you go, and you are not going and saying, I'll change your problems overnight. No, you cannot change it. It's not possible. You have to win the trust of the employees. When I went to HEC Ranchi, as I said, it's very interesting. I did some, exercise on my own. The CEO of HEC Ranchi, the chairman and managing director, over the years had an average tenure of 1 year and 6 months. 1 year and 6 months. Okay. Why? The company are sick, they are not getting salary, so they will come to HEC, then jump to some other organization. So that happened. I had taken a call on my own. I left this private company and gone there. I said, I am going to work here 5 years, come what may. And mind you, Ranchi was not a very
dangerous, very dangerous.
A lot of danger, a lot of issues were there. I had, even my family problem, in the sense, my wife was not so fluent in Hindi. She was first time going towards the north of the country. So, but important thing, you have to give a feeling to the people that you have come, you are one of them, and you will be able to solve the problem. I'll just give you one point. When I took over the chairmanship of HEC, the government was very keen that this company has to be turned around, because this was one of the original top companies of the government when it was set up in 1953. Now, The government even gave me a freedom that I can hire some 8 to 10 people and into HEC as a special on a contract basis for turning around this company. I said, no, I will not recruit anybody from outside because it is like a cricket captain. If you are a captain of the team, you can't say, I don't know, I don't want, there's a team already selected and given you. You cannot go on changing the players that, no, I'll take this fellow as wicketkeeper, I'll take this fellow as bowler. Your success depends on how you are able to motivate the 11 players, the remaining 10 players of your team to succeed. So my point is, when you take up a challenging assignment like this, your commitment should be full. You have to have only one goal. How do I make my people successful from the unsuccessful life which they have been going through over the years? Second point, which is again, as I said, be truthful and honest to them. I'll give an example. HEC, when I took over, the public sector, Schedule A public sector, we reported the Secretary Heavy Industries and the Industry Minister. Company was going through very difficult days. There was no money for salary. So and there was a request, there was a proposal in the Government of India for wage revision. You'll be surprised to note, HEC in 2007 was, people who are familiar with government circulars will be knowing, was getting a pay scale of 1992. The chairman's salary was 13,000 rupees basic. 13,000 rupees basic was the salary of the CMD of HEC in 2007 when I joined. Why? Because the company is not making profit. So every time the earlier CMDs used to go to Delhi, when they come back, they will not talk to the people. And they will say, file move, file is going up. I think it will be cleared. In 2 months, it will be cleared. What I did was, I thought the moment I returned from Delhi after meeting the ministry, I will not even go to my house. I'll straight come to the office, call my senior management team, call my union people, all together, and tell them verbatim what happened in Delhi. I will even say, sorry, I could not even meet the minister. I could not discuss. He didn't give me time. It's possible. So the paper is not moved an inch. It is the same place where it was 2 weeks back or 1 month back. I can tell you one thing. There may be an initial hurt feeling amongst the workers or the union, but they know one thing, that this man is telling the truth. So an important point is, if you earn the love of the people, and I'll again tell you, actually it is not after 4 years I turned around. In the first year itself, we turned around. Wow. In the very first year, we turned around and we gave a nominal profit to the Government of India. The Government of India and the Secretary even asked me, is it a real, hope you're not fudged the account. This was exactly a statement. Hope you're not fudged the account. I said, it can be anybody can audit it. Everything is open. So to answer your question, yes, there is nothing like a recipe. The recipe is, if at all there is a recipe, be honest, be part of them, take everybody into confidence, and find out ways and methods of coming out of the red.
So it is very important to be honest and transparent in your decisions.
Yeah.
And by the way, there is by Mr. Krishna Prasad has written one thing. Our former CMD GK Pillars are given the boost to energize everybody of HMT as a chairman. We HMTians following their spirit, and the Kalamisteri, the only unit is continuously profit making in HIT family. The only reason is that the leadership of Sri GK Pillars as a chairman. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And actually, we can learn a lot of things from Pillars. Thank you so much, sir. So my next question is, and how did your caliber as a national hockey player help in building successful teams? Because team building is very important. And how, as a player, how it has helped you in building the team?
Kalyan, if you give me 2 more minutes,
yeah.
Can I, on the turnaround, give you some more?
Yeah. You have, please.
Before I come to the sports arena.
Please.
Oh, okay. A very important point. When I took over this company, HEC, in 2007, I joined there on 28th of May. The company, as I said, had made profit only 3 occasions. Now, when a company is sick, why is it sick? It is like your body. Your body is sick basically because you're not taking care of the body. You eat a lot of things, nonsense you may eat, it may give some problem. You don't do any exercise, it may give some problem. So it is very important for the management or the CEO to find out why this company is sick. And I did that initially for about 1 month or 1.5 months. I did not do anything. I started studying the company. There are 4 challenges. One is employees' morale was very low. They don't get salaries in time, so they were not working. So morale was low. Second, the machines. For your information, this HEC factory is a 100% replica of a large factory in Soviet Union. People who are sitting here to get a size of the factory on the complex of HEC. The size of the HEC complex is 6 kilometers into 7 kilometers. 42 square kilometer was the size of the HEC complex. It had almost 11,000 houses, 11,000, 3-4 schools, colleges, etc. It had machine tools division, a foundry and forge division, and a machine building division. It was set up for setting up, it was known as the temples of modern India by Pandit Nehru. Okay. Each factory is about 2 kilometers long, so you can imagine how big the factory is. So the machines were old, employees' morale was less, no money was there, and technology was poor. It was the old Russian technology, and in 2007, the Russian technology was not the right, appropriate technology. Now, so what I did was, can I do all the things? No. So which is the most important? So it is very important what is the most important. Salary is low because you're not making. Salary is low because you're not making profit. So I thought the only one point which is most important in this situation is bring the company to profitability. So it became the buzzword in the organization. We have to do profit. We have to make profit. We have to make profit. Rather, it was like a parrot. At every talk, I was talking about profit. It is also important why many public sectors did not make profit. Because a feeling was there. There is a big difference between profit and profiteering. Profiteering is not correct, but profit is necessary. Without profit, you cannot survive. Even if you put up a small tea shop outside, you need to make some profit, otherwise you will get closed. So in HEC, the first and foremost thing was that we have to make this company profitable. How to make the company profitable? Now, to make the company profitable, it is very essential you think of different methods. Now, what are the methods you think? You don't have money. So if I want to arrange some big seminars and etc., you can't, and you don't gain anything, you don't have money. You'll be shocked what I did. Everybody said, no, in public sector, you cannot do this. I arranged programs from Chinmaya Mission, Ramakrishna Mission, to come and talk to our executives, not how to make castings, not how to make machines, but to tell them that your mind is most important. Wow. Your mind has to be changed. The darkness within the mind has to really go. And let me tell you, many of these Swamiji are actually very highly educated. There are MTechs from IITs. Yeah. So, and you don't have to spend money. If you get a big management consultant to come and talk to your people, you need to spend money, you have to give a lavish dinner every day. So what I did was, I arranged this program, sent these people who come from Ramakrishna Mission, Chinmaya Mission, for night dinner in each general manager's house, ask the general managers to call some 4 or 5 people so that the message can be percolated. This cannot be successful with the workers. It's a different ballgame. Yeah. I thought it is very important. Here is a very important point. I thought, so we arranged program for the workers, a motivational program, 3-day program, 5-day program, and the final day, I said, let the workers come with their wives, So initially, everybody was reluctant. Everybody said, no, some South Indian, somebody has come from Kerala, he is asking all the workers to come with their wives for the meeting. We are not going. They didn't come because they know that there's always a friction between the management and the, rather why management, the top management and the workers. I still allowed it. In the first 2, 3, 4 meetings, there are hardly some 4, 5, workers used to come with their wives. I gave them an opportunity for the women to talk. And let me tell you, in a case of a company, performing badly, company not giving salaries on time, it is not the men who are actually affected much. It's the women who are affected much, because she has to make the food for the family. She has to send the children to the school. She has to really manage all the affairs of the house, and without any inflow of income at the right time. The men will go to the factory, they will sit with friends, talk to each other, criticize the company, criticize the government, criticize the management. And when they come home, they will say, "Arey, where is the food?" So I felt that here is the women are the people who are the most important. So I allowed them to talk. And women can't get an opportunity to talk to anybody. So I said, you please tell your views, tell your worries. But I used to also say one thing, please ask your husbands to really work hard. I used to say in Hindi, मेहनत करिए, मुनाफा कमाइए, कंपनी में अगर मुनाफा होगा तो कंपनी की स्थिति अच्छी हो जाएगी. So that used to be my buzzword, with the feeling that 50% of the women will listen, or the husband will tell the remaining 50%, husband will tell the woman, you don't listen to that MD, he doesn't know what he's talking, forget about him, we know what are the ground realities. They will be there. I'm not saying no. But the remaining 50% women will tell the husbands in a lighter moment, please, why don't you do something? Do something good. Let there be profit for the organization. Let our children are suffering. At least they will get school fees, etc., etc., etc. And I can tell you one thing. After the 5th meeting, this workers' meeting became big success. The women used to be very happily coming. They used to dress up very well because they said, we'll have a meeting with the CMD, and they can talk anything to me. Somebody will say, there is no water in my thing. Somebody will say, there is a problem in my road. Somebody will say that my neighbor is harassing me. There are all types of things. And I used to listen to all. I may not be able to solve everything, but I was giving them.
Yes.
I believe that is one of the biggest. So this woman became my ambassador. And I did mention about the attendance system. Who supported me? The women supported me. When this message came that, management is putting up new machines for attendance at the gate, and though the union though the workers were very reluctant, the women employees told me in Hindi, they are all obviously talking, in the CMD sir, we are very obliged to you. You have done a right decision. Because we do not want our husband suddenly to go at 7 o'clock and then come back to the home at 9 o'clock and he just lies there in the house without doing any work. You have done a right thing. Please go ahead. What I wanted to say here is, when you do a turnaround, or when you do any of such things, there is nothing like a fixed schedule, fixed standard operating procedures. No. It depends on each time, each different situation, each different circumstances. And I have told this many a times, in various international Women's Year, which we celebrate on May 8th. I tell it is not necessary that only the highly educated women should be given credit. It is also this simple, uneducated housewives who really, as a team, supported this management to turn around this company.
Yeah.
So my point was, when you do a turnaround, you have to actually keep your eyes and ears open. There may be criticism. They'll be criticizing you a lot. But if your goal is clear that you are only doing this for the sake of this organization, I can tell you one thing. You will succeed.
Great.
People will fall in line. And this is a clear example of HEC.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So again,
just to add to what Krishnadas, many of you may not be knowing, Krishnadas has been working with HMT for a long time. He's a very strong trade union leader. Absolutely. Yeah, he's a very strong trade. And I respect that because the very fact that he has come and attending this program, it's very fact that it's the trade union has a responsibility of its own. If the management understands that and gives respect to them, I can assure you one thing: the organization can succeed. And in HMT Kalpuri, when I took over, when the then Industries Minister Vilasrao Deshmukh said, after I turned around HEC, he says, you should take over HMT. Everybody opposed, how can you give two companies to one man? He said, I am the deciding factor. Let Mr. Pillai take over HMT machine tool also. There are 6 units of HMT. Kalamassery, Bangalore, Hyderabad 2, Pinjore 1, Ajmer 1, 6. And everybody has a perception that HMT Kalamassery, since it is being in Kerala, is the worst among the lot. This is the perception, which is wrong. And HMT Kalamassery proved it that among the 6 HMT, HMT Kalamassery was the only unit which made profit.
Wow, wow, wow.
This again is actually how you are able to convince the employees, take them along with you, tell them the bare facts, and if you are working together, I am assuring you that you will succeed. There may still be problems. I'm not saying no, but you are working towards success, and that is what is needed for a leader. Yeah.
Great, great. Thank you.
So thank you, Krishnadas, for attending this program. So, next question.
Yeah.
Your next one was about hockey.
Yeah, yeah. As a national hockey player, I mean, that is being a team player, because hockey, cricket, and all is football and all is a team game. So, how that helped you in building a successful team in your organization?
You know, I rather lament today that today's generation, today's youngsters, do not spend any time on the sports field. On the sports field, which is very important. Watching TV, on a TV, sports matches is not the right thing. When you go to a ground, whether it's a team game like a hockey or football or cricket, or whether it's an individual sporting activities like athletics or tennis, I can tell you one thing. Once you enter the sports ground, you actually become a different individual. You are playing, your past has no meaning, your present has no meaning. Whose son you are there, nobody bothers. They only look at one thing, your caliber. And when you start playing, you actually sweat. You sweat. You then understand the difficulties of coming up. Your father may be a very big man, but it need not be necessary that you become a good player. Okay. So when you are in a sports field, I tell many times, I feel very happy today. Even today, I feel that the time which I spent on the sports ground, right from my school days to my college days, even after joining instrumentation, people like VGG Nair, I can see him on the screen. He was also part of instrumentation team in the earlier days.
We have conducted the first national hockey in Palakkad.
Oh, yeah.
So what I meant was to answer Kalyan's point.
Yeah.
When you when you are a sportsman, your mindset is different. You don't have. Very rarely a sportsman will have a narrow mindset. There could be some instances I'm not saying, but I'm talking generally. So when you have a sports-minded individual, your mindsets become broader. Whether you're a team player, and a team game is very important. You know that all 11 players of the team cannot be the same. There'll be somebody who is very good, somebody is average, somebody is bad. You have to actually work with them. Same thing is in the organization. You cannot get all the people working in your team exactly like you. Rather, you should always think that one point which you should make is you should actually see to it that you become redundant. Your youngsters take over from you. If that is your motto, you will succeed.
Yeah.
You will succeed.
In fact, when I'm interviewing people, one thing I always look for is I'm not looking at their education or their percentage of marks they score. I mean, whether they are participated or they are having any other talents apart from their education. I mean, that plays a big role, and that has also proven very good. Like you said, that is a very, very important thing that we need to look into.
I want to give a personal example, which is we are all from very middle class families. I was in a place called Kota. in Rajasthan. I was in my school. I joined there in the 6th standard. And if I have inculcated a love for sports, it is my father. In like in any house, it's the mother wants the child to study hard so that he or she has a good career, good education.
Yes. Yes.
My father was so particular. He himself was a football player. He was so particular. He will not allow me to sit in the house at evening 5 o'clock onwards. 5 to 6:30, I should be out of the house.
Wow. Great.
And it's very interesting. I'm quoting this. It's very because and he used to see whether I am really going to play or I am just standing there. Initially I was just hockey. They didn't even allow me into the field because I didn't know anything. He used to see whether my shirt or my t-shirt is wet. And there were days I used to put water on my t-shirt to show to him that I have actually played on the ground. So what I wanted to say is, it is important for us and it is important for parents to instill this particular love for sports for their children. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, great, sir. Great. Thank you. So how we manage get, yeah, this is very important, very, very, very important, because for a marketing team, I mean, especially you have worked in public sector companies, if you are able to get deliverables, target deliverables from a person in marketing in a public sector organization, definitely I think you can get it from anywhere. So how you used to get it done? I mean, because there are many factors which will play a role in it, because I myself being a sales guy, I'm a marketing guy. So your application of this.
I think it's a very, very important question. But I thought I will tell you a real life incident, which is why I'm saying the real life incident. It is actually
important. That is
one can actually relate. Everybody has got somewhere some examples, real life.
Yeah.
When I passed out from from engineering from BITS Pilani, I joined Instrumentation Limited. And at the interview panel decided, and I was like, there were 12 candidates selected. I was number 2. So they asked me which department you would like to go. I said, I want research and development and engineering. I still remember that. The general manager HR, he said that, no, you should join marketing. And I said, no, I don't like marketing. My perception of marketing was that they dress up well, they put a tie, they tell lies, they bluff a lot about it. This is the perception. I'm talking of 1973. Please don't misunderstand me. Please don't take anything wrong. In my mind, in 1973, as a young boy of 21, 20, yeah. They put me in R&D engineering because I was number 2 in the panel. After 6 months, there was a reassessment and they asked me, I said, I'm very happy with R&D. And I used to think that 5 years in Pilani, I had done a lot of engineering and I'm using my engineering in my R&D. But then the GM HR said, yes, you are happy in R&D, we know that, but we are not happy with you in R&D. We want you to go into marketing. And mind you, I had no say in that. I was forced to come into marketing. And I feel that decision of changing my career from R&D to marketing, had it not happened in the initial years after the 6 months, I don't think I would be sitting today and talking to all of you. So why I said that, marketing is in those days a very, very important area. Not that it's not important today, but when I say important, see, in the earlier days, it used to be the marketing man normally rises faster, he goes to become the CEO. But in today's world, it's the it's the finance people,
yes.
supply chain today, or even HR people. It's the world is changing, the business style is changing. So that was one point. Second point, your question was, how do you motivate the marketing team? And particularly in situations like this, particularly in a public sector. When I was selected to marketing, I then immediately went to my general manager marketing of the company of Instrumentation Limited. He used to sit in Delhi. I said, sir, give me some tips. I have joined marketing now. Give me some tips. I still remember the tips he gave me. He said 2 things. One, as a person, you have to show that you are the person always in a hurry, always in a hurry, that you want. So whenever you are seen outside, you should show to it that you should be fast. You don't want to spend even 1 minute of wasting. Though you go back to your office and don't do any work. But in public, it is the marketing man who is seen by the public. You are the front face of the organization. So you have to be seen like an agile organization. Second point he said, I still remember, it was in Palgad, I was walking when this general manager was with me. He said, you should think that the company is yours. You take a decision as a marketing man, you should take a decision. It could be a wrong decision, but take a decision. So these were my initial talks. Now to answer your question, when I took over HEC, the marketing was very bad, very bad. Public sector, generally the marketing is bad. So what I did was, see, a very important thing for all is when you are in marketing, you should be face to face with the customer. The customer should know you intimately. Customer should have a confidence in you. So as the chairman and MD of HEC, I decided to visit all my customers. As individual, I started. People from HEC, the marketing team was not visiting customers, but I decided I will go and took my head of marketing also with me. And at every place, when a chairman comes, there is some respect is given. But I tell him, forget all this formality. You tell me what is the problem of HEC. And mind you, everybody said that you have such a wonderful workshop, you have such a wonderful facilities, but your marketing is not doing the work. So it is important to actually lead by examples. And then if you are able to get a connect with the customer, that is a very important thing. And you have to think big. HEC had at that time hardly order booking of say 100, 150 crores. They had never got an order more than 35 crores. You will be surprised. We bid for a project of 742 crores.
Wow.
For a company whose average order booking was 35 crores. 742 crores, and we got the order. So you have to think big. You have to think that you will be able to, the attitude, somebody asked about that word attitude, and I feel here is the attitude comes. The attitude should be that, yes, I will be able to do that. And Kalyan was also mentioning, in a pandemic situation, what do we do when the pandemic is over? What do we do? How the marketing people do? I am saying even in the pandemic situation, the marketing people of every organization should be in touch with the customers. Even the customers are going through a bad phase, not only we, but it is always better to be in touch with the customer, either through phone or through video call or through email. Then what happens is he understands. When the pandemic is over, at least you will not be going first time to a customer, to that customer, saying that, oh, now the pandemic is over, tell me, sir, what is the business? No. So your relationship is very, very important.
Yeah.
And when I was working for Fisher, I had the Fisher headquarters USA, and they used to always tell me that a sales tool, his word used to be that 2 legs are most important for the marketing than any amount of email or any amount of phone calls.
Yes,
what he meant was 2 legs means you go and sit in front of the customer, show your face. It could be for 5 minutes, it could be for 10 minutes, but regular customer interaction is a must. World has changed a lot. Pandemic has brought a lot of things. Pandemic has also taught us that yes, can we do most of the business through video calls? It could be possible. But I am still of the opinion that once the pandemic situation is over, people should resort to the earlier methods of going and meeting the customer. And you see, it is a body language. You are customers' representatives in your organization. And as I said some time back, the initial of my talk, the truthfulness. If you tell a customer the truthful, sir, your product is not ready. It will not be ready in the next 1 month because these are the problems. He will like it because he knows you are telling him the truth. So my point to all the people, And another point which I say, marketing is not always done only by the marketing people. Rather, marketing is done by everybody, right from the security person to the telephone operator, to the planning person, to the dispatch clerk. Everybody has a role to play in marketing.
Yes,
And
yes.
for that, if it is an organization culture, it is only the marketing man goes to book an order. But for booking an order, it's not only the quotation, it's basically the company's name, the company's perception. So that is the responsibility of the CEO. A CEO, people say, how much time should a CEO spend? I say a CEO should spend almost 30% of the time in HR related activities. 30% of the time. How to improve the morale, how to have tell the team members what is the future. So the HR related activity should be 30%. 30% or 20%, 25% should be towards marketing activities.
Yes.
Again, 20-25% towards future growth of the company, strategies. Where do you want to take the company after 5 years, after 10 years, after 15? You may not be there in the company, but you have to actually lay a foundation. And for normal operations, day-to-day work, he should not spend more than 5% to 7% of his time. Yeah.
So that building that bondage between the team is very, very important as far as the team is concerned. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. So next is how to practically implement that work-life balance, because work-life balance has been a very, very, very big issue, especially, I mean, since I work with IT companies also, Praveen is also a this IT guy. Okay. I mean, work-life balance is a hell lot of a problem. I mean, there is no work-life balance. I mean, especially even after the pandemic. In fact, what happens is there is no work-life balance at all. When you're sitting at home, the boss thinks that you are always free. Okay, that is, we used to have the problem because I was working for a German company. I was working from home. I mean, my boss always used to call me and ask me, what are you doing? What are you doing? Even 24 hours. Because for the boss, working from home, and for a boss, he thinks that you are always free. So that is one thing. And especially in this kind of scenario, how to practically implement work-life balance. That is, I remember you also telling, and Sridharan sir also telling, that is not taking work home after the working hours. So many things. So how is it possible? Because even, I mean, I am not able to complete my work, even I sit for night or whatever it is. So your advice on that?
I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah.
A person has got 24 hours. Of his 6 hours, he sleeps. On an average, a person spends 10 hours in the organization, either by traveling to office, returning from office, 10 hours. Okay. So he has got only 8 hours left for all his activities. His home activities, his food eating activities, his bathing activities, his temple going activities, his sports activities. So it is unfair for somebody to interfere in those 8 hours. That is one point. I always believe, rather, I have made it a point, nobody can call me on my phone and they will not get a call from me on their phone after office hours. That is one very, very important point. It is actually, here the CEO has to lay down certain rules. So I don't allow anybody to call me until there is a real grave emergency. And I will not call anybody because there is nothing like that it cannot wait till tomorrow morning when you go to office. So there is nothing. So that is one point. If at all somebody has got some urgency, he can send a WhatsApp message or an SMS message. Depending on that, if a call is needed, come. So you should not interfere with your employee's home time, personal time, because he is not your worker all the time. You don't control. You only control for him for a certain period of time. If that feeling is done, I can tell you one thing. A lot of our problems, both the management problem, the workers problem, the CEO's problem, will go ahead. That is one. But it requires a lot of guts to tell that nobody will call me. So for that, we have to say nobody. Normally what happens is CEOs will say, any problem, send me a mail. Any problem, call, give me a buzz. No. Any problem, you solve it. I am not here to solve. I am not a problem solver. That is one point. Second point, in organization, it was very interesting when I went to HEC from a private sector, US company. And most of the US companies, most of the European companies, Friday, 4 o'clock onwards, They are not there in the office.
Yes,
They
yes.
go home. They will come only on Monday. You ring up them, they will not even lift the phone. The
Yes.
phone will be switched off. They may be enjoying their life. Okay. Are they not productive? They are productive. They are very much productive. So why can't we bring that culture? So when I went to HEC, and since I was new to that company, I was spending a lot of time sitting in the office, studying about the company. And I find that almost all the senior management team is in the office. And suddenly somebody will come to my room at 7 o'clock. Sir, how is this? Somebody will come and say, sir, how is this? Just to show that they are in the office. I had made it very clear in the senior management meeting. Gentlemen, please go to your home at 5:36 whenever you want. If you are trying to impress me by sitting late, I am not going to be impressed. And even my secretary, I used to send her, please go home at 6 o'clock. So it is very important. And this is where actually the culture should actually percolate down the line. And which is very important. So this was my take on the work-life balance.
Yeah, because if you take the case of IT, I mean, we used to have Scrum Masters. I mean, we used to have Scrum and we used to have Scrum Masters because they will do the micromanagement and that ensure that the things are getting done on a timely basis. But instead of having all the Scrum and everything, I mean, I know that they are always on call. I mean, 24 hours they may be required to answer. So actually, that's a failure of Scrum or whatever it is, or the failure of micromanagement. So that is one very important issue that the management has to decide. That is after 6 o'clock or whatever it is, I will not interfere in his job, in his life, and it is his life that he need to enjoy. So that is like Praveen has told very controversial one. There is no work-life balance or anything like that. We can discuss definitely. It's a very, very, very big topic which needs to be discussed.
No, one more point which I want to say. It is very foolish of the boss. If a person wants to leave, why do you want to leave? That is none of boss's role to find out why does they want to leave. He may be wanting to only sleep in his house. He has a right for that. If he is going at 6 o'clock, the boss has no reason to ask him, why are you going? Where are you going after? It is, but I'm telling you, but invariably people ask, hey, why do you want to go at 6 o'clock? Where do you want to go? He may go wherever he wants. So I think that culture, if you bring in, most of the time, your subordinate will say, I have to do this registration tomorrow, so I will not come. But the freedom should be given to the individual. That is important.
So this is, I think we're reaching to the end of it. I mean, the scaling up, this is very important for young entrepreneurs as well as for startups or whoever it is. I mean, about scaling up, that is how and when to take a decision on scaling up in a growing organization. Because I know some organizations, they took a decision to scale up even before the teething problems are solved, and they just completely plundered. So your advice on that, when and how to scale?
This is a very difficult decision for any entrepreneur to take. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
I'm just leaving that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Because time.
It's not very easy for an entrepreneur to take a call. Should he scale? Should he not scale? Yeah. If the organization is going and he's very happy and making reasonable profit, so then what happens is, one is the type of person who feels I'm happy with this profit, I'm happy with this growth, like what we call the Hindu rate of growth. But then there are many ambitious individuals who will feel that this is too small a growth. I really want to take a risk and grow faster, exponentially. Okay. Now, so these are two different individuals. We cannot draw a line and tell them, yes, this is right or this is wrong. I always feel if you are young in age, 20s, 30s, 35, when you don't have much larger family commitment, you should really take challenge and grow, try to grow. Because that is the only time you can take challenge without looking at anything else. So even if you fail, there is an opportunity for you to But if you cross the age of 40, and then if you are taking a big risk, it perhaps will, and if you fail, it becomes a little bit more difficult. So, but having said that, I'm always of the opinion that one has to take risk for success. Otherwise, you can never succeed. A normal growth is not a growth. It's not a growth. Even today, people will always look at, including putting in FD money, you will look at a slight more higher interest rate, or you look at into some mutual fund where you get more money. Earlier days, people used to even put money in, NBFCs which are giving higher interest, but they fail. So coming back to the business, it's an individual taste, individual choice, individual risk-taking capacity, and if you do not take risk, you can never grow. So all successful people in life have taken risk.
Yeah.
So if 10 people have become successful, possible 100 people would have failed. But my personal view is, if you are in the younger age group, take risk. You will really enjoy taking the risk.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. So next is, yeah. Okay, okay, I think that is more important question is this on the concept of lean management. That is, because lean management is becoming a thing of part of life. So your view on lean management, whether it is in IT or whether it is manufacturing or whatever it is, your concept on that.
You see, if you look at the manufacturing setup today or the manufacturing industry, what is lean, first of all? Okay. Now, lean is slim and trim. Who doesn't want to be slim and trim? Even as an individual for our body, we want to be slim and trim. Okay. Because we want the extra waste which is actually, bulging in our body, that should be removed. Why? One, if you are lean and trim, you look good. Two, if you are lean and trim, your efficiency improves. I'm talking first of the human being. So the same thing is reflected in an organization. If you are in any organization, if the organization has got extra flag, it is not going to make money. It will slow down its operation. You need, in today's world, you have to be successful. You can only be successful if you are able to be one step ahead of your competition. For that, you have to be faster. You should think faster. You should act faster. You should work faster. And for that, an organization which is slim and trim is important. That is one. Two, there are different methodologies. And for the lean management, obviously that itself is a different topic, a long topic. Coming back to manufacturing industries, why do you want to have lean? Because that will actually reduce your cost, reduce your expenses, improve your margins. So lean management is a must. Today, India is actually India should have been the global manufacturing hub, which we have not yet still come to that level. I'm not going into that. That's a very different topic. But one of the reasons why I brought this point is many of our organizations, particularly in the MSME sector, the success of a country's global manufacturing needs or qualities or deliveries is depending on the success of how good you have your MSME sector in the country in terms of lean operations, in terms of quality, and in terms of reliability and delivery.
By the way, we also have Professor Ladana. She is an expert in lean management. I think we need to have a session separately for that also.
We can. It's a very important.
Yeah, that is right. That is right. Okay, so that is all from my side. Maybe I'm sorry that I took a lot of time. Okay, now people can ask questions because there are some very important, very interesting things that people have written. Okay, so people can ask questions by raising hands. Okay, this is being recorded and will be available in YouTube also. So you can watch it. Okay, there's a Kalyanji Online is YouTube channel where you can watch it also. Okay, so and I shared that Google form. If you fill it, I'll send you further details there. Okay, so you can now. It is time to ask questions. Pleasure if we have time. If you can.
Yeah,
answer.
we can.
Yeah, very important things that many people have written. So I think I will start with the Praveen. Yeah.
Hello, sir. I hope you remember me. We met during Sridharan's
You need, you need to
visit.
show your, you need to show your face.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It will become easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm Praveen.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Thanks for the wonderful sessions. It was, and I also appreciate the way it has been taken, like asking questions. And it was really wonderful. So I just have a lot of questions, of course, but I don't want to take that liberty today because it's already like 8:30. But I just want to maybe share the point, like for example, the question is about work-life balance. I learned this from one of with like I learned from the one of the leadership programs which has been organized in Sadhguru's Insight. No, there is an
Yeah,
Insight
yeah.
leadership program.
Yeah,
So what I found in the YouTube, somebody was asking about the work-life balance. Okay, so even I also agree with the view. Like for example, what Sadhguru said. Somebody was asking about especially the what is a work-life balance. So Sadhguru was saying that that word, like the work-life balance, that thing is actually it's not a right way, because when you have 24 hours, you are doing everything which is part of the life. So why you are demarking work from life? Only thing is how you manage the work which is part of the life. There is no need that you and what you were saying, your point, you were saying that everybody works up to everybody is waiting for the Friday things to enjoy the life. So that means what you are saying, you enjoy life only 2 days, the other 5 days, you are not enjoying. So my point is that question. I mean, even is a point. Work-life balance is a right thing, because work is also part of the life. Only thing is how you enjoy it. Am I right?
You are absolutely right. As I said, in all this, whatever discussions we have, it is not like a mathematical answer 2 plus 2 is 4. No. It all depends on how somebody defines what Sadhguru said. Obviously, he's got very, very important, very truthful. A verb also is very, very crucial. I'm not saying no. But when we talk in a common language, when we find, we feel that we have to spend some time with the family. Many a times people would not have, don't get time to go and watch a movie. Why? Because not that you don't like movie, you like movie. But in real terms, what happens is, even though when I may say that yes, I also would love to play.
Please, sir. Can you please mute? No.
Somebody's music is
Mr. Mohan Nair? Yeah. Okay, you're saying. Mr. Mohan Nair, can you please?
there is a mute up.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah.
what I meant for
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. In between a call came. Sorry.
Okay.
The point here is that yes, when you are, I was mentioning that we don't even get time to go and watch a movie. Is that requirement or not requirement? It's a requirement. You may get a relaxation by watching movie. But then what happens is, at times you give priority to your work. Priority to your work. I'll give you my own example. Though I am today saying a work-life balance is required. When you are actually, many a time when you are so career conscious, I'm being very blunt, very open. When you're a career conscious, you try to spend a lot of time for things which is career related.
Yeah.
You're enjoying career. It does not mean I don't like to watch a football match. I love to watch all these football matches. But I forego those comfort because I give a priority to the career. So it's not that you're not enjoying work. You're enjoying work, you're enjoying football, you want to go and eat outside, you want to just walk around, do some shopping, window shopping. But it depends on what priority you give. So many times when you are career conscious, you give priority to career. I am telling you, I sometimes feel I have not done justice to my family. In the sense, I have not taken them out. I have not been with them for a long time. So what I did in the last couple of years, rather, after I came to Pune, Saturday, Sunday, I was not at all getting involved in office work. Nothing. I said, let me change myself. And I used to be at home. I may not even go out, but I may be just relaxing and be at home. So the point here is what Sadhguruji said. Yes, it's those 24 hours depending on us. How do we want to spend those 24 hours? It all depends on where you give priority. And that only you can do. Nobody can tell you, no, you will have to work only 8 hours for office, rest you have to spend 4 hours with your family. No, you know what you want. You know that you really want to work maybe 12 hours because there is a urgent work is pending. Okay.
So next
Yeah.
is from Vaishnav.
Yeah,
He's a
Mohan
young- He's a young startup, early 20s and 22 now. What is the single most short advice to someone in their early 20s? I mean, he's asking about Vaishnav. Can you ask the question clearly? Can you take the mic and ask? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sorry, my camera is not
No issues, no
working.
issues. You're very
So,
fine.
thank you, sir, for your like really insightful advices. It really sparked a lot of things in me. So, my question to you is that, like, what would be the most very simple advice that you would give anybody in like starting off their career or they're in early 20s? So, would they concentrate more on like getting into an university, studying things, or should they go out to get the practical experience by working with someone or working in a company or something like that?
As I said some time back, there is no ready-made answer for this. You cannot have one answer. You can have multiple answers. Now, one of the points which, if you are going, as I explained to you about the swimming part, okay? So you can be just put into a pond, you can start learning swimming and you will become a fantastic swimmer. Then somebody, your counterpart, who actually went through a complete swimming coaching program. Keeping that aside, to answer your specific question, can there be one answer? No, it can be both. But general feeling is education is needed. I also sometimes feel that yes, if I had got an MBA, perhaps it would have helped me. So education per se, I am of the full 100%, I subscribe to this theory that whatever we learn in our life is important and it need not be at only the initial stage of your career. At the same time, when you want to start some unit of your own, or you have an entrepreneurial background or you want to have that mindset, experience in a different industry helps. A different industry. You look at Mukesh Ambani's son and daughter. Both of them were working for various companies. I think one of them was working for, I'm not exactly remembering, but therefore one of the top 4 companies they were working. Similarly, I know of many other large industrialist sons, they know they'll be running the company at a later date. But working in an organization gives you a different learning, which a university cannot give. So both are important. So if you want to go for higher studies, you work for about 2-3 years, then you'll be able to relate that when you study in a different college. Mohan Nair wants to.
Yeah, he wants Mr. Mohan
Yeah.
Nair?
Yeah, good evening,
please.
sir. Fantastic. I think very inspiring, and we could not, think that you spoke so long and it was so interesting. See, I got a good idea about the public sector challenges, but one question because I'm an entrepreneur, being a Malayali, born and brought up in Pune. See, one challenge in today's world is, on the values. See, if you go to the public sector, that was a different time. But today, business, for entrepreneurs, it is only one thing: to make profits and to grow. The biggest dilemma is how to keep up your values. Now, I come from I'm from Palakkad. So I'm basically from a genetical background where we are all value-based people. Now, in today's world, to survive, there's a big dilemma. One side, you are value-based, but the other side, the world is totally, with this pandemic, if you see the details, this pandemic was a bio-war or whatever, we do not know. How to remain compliant, value-based in today's challenge? Because most of me, now I'm on the last phase of life, but the youngsters today have a big challenge. One side, they have an entrepreneurial background. They have seen the present situation globally and the companies which have come up very fast, but are they value-based? So if I'm a value-based individual and so many entrepreneurs will come in the future, How can you face this dilemma? Because public sector, this dilemma is very high. But what is your advice to the younger generation?
See, my point in this is very clear because I always feel that if you have an ethical background,
Yeah.
I gave an example of a man going and eating lunch in a normal thali lunch where
Yeah.
he can eat a 5-star hotel. Okay. What I'm saying is, if you have an ethical bent of mind and you
Okay.
have value-based, ideas in your mind, you can survive. You will never fail. You will never fail. Because why I am saying that is, profit is needed. I am of a very strong opinion that you do not, until unless you are a service organization. Okay, service organization, then the profit is a secondary issue. Your main idea is to serve. But you are not, when I say service means seva. It's not the usual service like an IT industry or hotel industry, also service industry. I'm not doing that. So profit is needed. In the present situation of the pandemic, management, owners, chief executives are actually in a very difficult situation. Very, very difficult situation. At one side, if a conventional management leader is asked that, yes, I have to improve the profit, reduce the expenses, the first thing he thinks is reduce the manpower expense. That's the first thing. That there may be some surplus manpower, which we can always, in any organization, there is a surplus. There is no denying to that fact. Okay. So, and people do it. Right from GE days, we find that the pink slip was started, and you find that every year 5% of the people are actually removed from the organization.
Yes, yes.
But in the pandemic situation, you are in a dilemma. Can I remove my employee? Because where will that man go? It becomes very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. And there, one has to really make sacrifices. Yes, I will suffer loss for maybe 2 years or 3 years or 1 year, but my actions should be such that if by one action, if 10 people, 10 families lose their job, it becomes more difficult. So it is a very, it's not a very straightforward answer. I am sure after 5 years or so, when the pandemic would be totally behind our backs, we'll be finding a lot of case studies in real terms, how individuals, organizations, executives have actually handled this. So my point here is, in a larger scale, yes, we have to be humane. In the normal course, we would have said, fire this man, he is not good. But today, we have to be humane. Having said, at the same breath, I would also urge upon the employees also to understand that this is a difficult situation. A management could have actually sacked me, but they're not sacking me, they're keeping me. So maybe a 10% reduction, cut, and this can be done even discreetly. It need not be across the board. If you call an individual employee and say that normally we would have asked you to go because we don't need you, but we still want that your family should not suffer, I would like to, suggest a pay cut of 10%. I'm sure he will agree.
Yeah.
I'm sure he will agree. So individually, perhaps we'll have to, but at no point our value should change. That, knowing you very well, I know you are a person with a lot of ethical values, lot of value systems there in you, in your organization. So our value system should actually withstand all these pressures. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kalyan?
Thank you so much.
I
I
think
think
adding, I think adding to that, I mean, if you have a person with value, whether you are old or young or whatever it is, it will definitely have a result. I mean, people will respect you when you're going to a customer, and if you are a person who has a very good goodwill, definitely the customer is going to accept you compared to somebody else. So can I take one more question, sir?
Yeah, last question we can take.
Last question. മലയാളമായാലും കുഴപ്പമൊന്നുമില്ല കേട്ടോ. I mean, ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ ചോദിക്കണം മാത്രമൊന്നുമില്ല, സാർക്ക് മലയാളം അറിയാം. ഓക്കെ, അതുകൊണ്ട് ആരും മറിച്ച് നിൽക്കണ്ട. The last question. Who wants to ask? Thank you, Sindhuja Menon. Okay. So I think that is over. So that's all. Okay. So thank you so much for participants. So I think you are all, yeah. So my question, Jay Shankar. Yeah, please ask the question again. No? ശശാങ്കർ ഒന്ന് ചോദ്യം ചോദിച്ചോളൂ.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot.
Sir, I just want just a quick
I am a middle-level manager in I am working with health services, and it's a government organization. And for
Sir, ഒന്ന് വീഡിയോ ഓഫ് ചെയ്തോളൂ. വീഡിയോ
how to bring the culture of love. Yeah. How do you bring the culture of loving the organization among the employees? You have answered it beautifully, and it's more applicable to the private sector and other public sector undertakings and all. But for the pure public sector service organizations, how can we do that? Can you throw some more light into that thing, please?
Can you repeat the question, because I was not able to hear it clearly?
I loving the organization, how it can be implemented in the public sector, in public sector, yeah,
In a public sector service organization.
service organization, yeah.
Like the health services.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Actually, as you rightly said, in a private organization or in a public sector company, it's basically a smaller body. When you talk about a government body, it's a larger body. So it becomes slightly more difficult. But having said that, suppose you are in a health department and dealing with health services. All the policies will be across the state the same policy. But if you are in Palghat and you as a team of, you have say 5 people or 7 people or 10 people, if you are going out of that extra mile, for serving the people, I'm sure nobody will ever complain. Rather, they'll be more thrilled. They'll be more thrilled. So, if a service-oriented government organization. Even at a lower, at a level which is away from the headquarters, a smaller office, you can bring in your culture there. There is no reason why you cannot do that. So my point is, it all depends on the head who is heading that particular office, work with the team, say that yes, we have to support these people. There is a pandemic, we'll go extra hour, extra mile to support them. And I'm sure you'll be setting up excellent examples. Excellent examples.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. So shall we wind up?
I think Sethu Madhavan has last question. We can give it to Sethu Madhavan.
I am Sethu Madhavan. I had the privilege of working with Mr. Pillai at Instrument Limited.
Okay.
Later, when there is a Japanese company at Kanjikode, Koso Fluid Controls,
Yeah, also, yeah.
not doing well. At that time, we were actually looking forward to your visit, so that probably you could turn around that company. Anyway, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So this, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sethu. Kalyan, can we close it?
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure. So thank you once again. We have taken more time. I know that, but I'm extremely sorry for that, because it's a very, very important session, and it's a very, very important time. The very important time it has taken place. So thank you once again. This is being recorded, so I can upload it to YouTube and send a link also, so everybody can watch it again. And I will also send it to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again for this wonderful moment. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for sending your time, valuable time. I know that it's very important. Thank you all. Thank you all the participants. And
Thank you, sir.
also.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. It was very insightful.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And anybody has got, I am now, after retirement, I'm just devoting my service for the industry, for the management. Anybody has got any doubts, anytime, you can write to me. All service is free. Nothing is charged. You don't have to worry. Any consultancy is also free. So absolutely don't hesitate.
You're spoiling my career.
And thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
for the wonderful session. Thank you, Jiki.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Pramod here.
Hi, Pramod. How are you? Nice seeing you.
Yeah. I thought let me come in the video maybe on the last.
Good, good, good. Hello, Raghu. How are you?
Yeah. Hi. In fact, I wanted to tell you that my mother's cousin's husband, Keshavan, worked for HMT earlier. And he
I
was
know
a
Raghu.
successful CEO. And he
Yeah.
was shifted to Ajmer for controlling the HMT there. Because they were having chaos there at that time.
Okay. Great, great, great.
Right.
And there is one Mr. Arun. Arun now is in Singapore. He works under you in Fisher Seminar. Arun Kumar, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, I'm Arun Kumar. I'm not sure.
You need
Sir,
to show your face.
GK sir, remember?
You need to show your face. Yeah,
Yeah, wait a minute.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Hello,
sir.
Hi, good. It's pretty late in Singapore. No, it's almost 11:30.
Yeah.
Still, you are watching. It's great. Krishnadas Subandhanele.
ഓ സുഖം സർ ഇത്ര നമ്മള് സാറ് വന്നതിന് ശേഷം GK പള്ളി സാറ് വന്നതിന് ശേഷം നമ്മള് കണ്ടിന്യൂസ്ലി പ്രോഫിറ്റ് മേക്കിംഗ് യൂണിറ്റ് ആണ് കളമശ്ശേരി.
Very good,
Very good.
Oh, wonderful.
ഈ
Wonderful.
വർഷവും പ്രോഫിറ്റ് മേക്കിംഗ് ആണ്. ബട്ട് HMT കളമശ്ശേരി യൂണിറ്റ് മാത്രമാണ് ഈ പ്രോഫിറ്റ് മേക്കിംഗ് എന്നാണ് നമ്മുടെ പ്രോബ്ലം. ബാക്കിയൊരു യൂണിറ്റും നമ്മളുടെ കൂടെ വരുന്നില്ല. അതാണ് നമ്മുടെ ഒരു പ്രശ്നം.
ശരിയാണ്.
ഞങ്ങൾ എപ്പോഴും പറയും സാർ ഒരു 2-3 years എങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ HMT പഴയ ജുവൽ ഓഫ് നാഷൻ ആയെന്ന്.
Let's go.
Unfortunately, not happened.
ശരിയാണ്. Anyway, thank you for all attending. Okay, Kalyan.
Thank you,
All
sir.
the
Thank you
best
so
for
much.
all.
Right,
Okay,
good
sir.
night.
I'll send
Thank
you.
you,
I'll send you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalyan, for the arranging this seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Pramod ji.
Yeah, thank you. I was with the JK Pillai right from instrumentation and then chemtrals and all.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I started my career with IL. I am from
Okay.
Palghat.
Okay.
So
That's wonderful.
my first boss was GKB.
Great.
And then he took me to chemtrals. Then he moved to Fisher. I moved to Dresser.
Okay.
So that's how it is.
So you were in Dresser Valves, Coimbatore?
I was in their Chennai. I started the Chennai branch.
Okay.
And after that, I left. And now I work with a company called BGR Energy Systems.
Great. Awesome, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Hope you shared your details also.
Yeah. You're based at Palghat or?
No, I am based at Palghat. Yeah.
Okay.
You can just take my number also.
I noted it down.
Please,
I am from Palghat basically.
Great.
I
Please
did my engineering from NSS and all.
That's my WhatsApp, so you can just send a hi. We'll just stay in
Sure.
touch.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Take it there. Bye.
Yeah, good night. Thank you. Thank you so much. Shankarji, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Krishnas.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jaishankar. Thank you, Mr. Nandumar. Many. Thank you, Mr. Vaishak. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you all this.